What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Active Self-Protection Extra. I am Christopher Beam with Tactical Advantage, and today we are going to talk about failure to stop.
Today's video is sponsored by Backstreet Surveillance, Active Self-Protection's trusted source for home and business surveillance. They offer free expert system design and quotes using their Backstreet Surveillance System Design Tool to help you build the perfect system for your application. They also offer nationwide professional installation, remote smartphone monitoring, and their revolutionary 360 4K camera to help you keep track of and protect that which you love. Check them out at the link in the description and thank them for bringing us today's video.
Okay, so in the last video, we kind of talked through a little bit about dry firing through Gabe White's technical skills tests. So today, I think I'd like to really dive in really into failure to stop, which is a relatively simple drill, but there's some things you can certainly do to kind of set yourself up for success. So really, failure to stop, all it is 2 shots to the alpha and then 1 shot to the head box. You've probably heard it kind of called like the Mozambique, something like that. But really, for the sake of our conversation today, we're going to talk through it as failure to stop. So Gabe's times for this, I think, are 290 for a dark pin, 250 for a light pin, and 170 for the turbo pin. So there's a couple things that we can kind of run through. And this is literally how I dry fire it. So we're a little bit closer on distance than I would normally run this as. But I can't get the entire room in frame. So we'll do it kind of close, but I'll kind of talk through really what that needs to look like and how I practice it to get quicker. So I've got 290 on my timer right now. So let's demo that and just kind of see what that looks like. So again, we're probably, I don't know, maybe working on 3 yards, but for what we're doing right now, just to get the movement of the gun and the trigger presses, it doesn't really much matter. If we can get the gun presented where we want and move the gun the way that we want, it doesn't matter if it's 3 yards, 7 yards. It's going to have little impact once you really understand how much the gun needs to move. One thing to think about when you're at closer distances, your vertical transition closer is actually a little bit more work. So the further you get away, it's less input is required at the muzzle to actually get your head box shot. So that's just something to kind of think through. But with that, let's see what a 290 kind of looks like. One, two, three. So we had plenty of time there. Hopefully you guys can see exaggerated trigger movement. Just like with the bill drill, I'm trying to move the gun just to make sure that my grip's kind of where it needs to be. And I'm actually controlling the gun versus, that was a bad grip, versus the gun kind of controlling how I react to it. 1, 2, 3. Okay. That was a little notchy, so we want to do a little bit better than that. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So next would be like the light pin time, which is 250. So let's get that set up really quick. And that's not going to be dramatically different than what we saw before. Okay. One, two, three. Okay. Let's try that again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we're relatively close in there with time, but now we're getting into like turbo time, which is 170. I think my personal best on this drill is 129 or so with effective hits, but 170 is certainly no joke. So you really need to make sure you get your draw the way you need it. It needs to be around that 1 second mark. And one of the things I've found super helpful with this that I see actually a lot is people take the 2 body shots or the 2 alphas and then they'll forcefully drive the gun up, like input just a ton of motion to get the gun up to the head box. And what tends to happen is they'll overshoot. So you're putting in so much input, it's hard to stop, especially on a lower to higher vertical plane. It has a tendency to just creep above what you're trying to hit, or someone's trying to time it in such a way that the motion's still going as they pull the trigger. That's not very consistent in results with what you're gonna get. What I attempt to do is much like the bill drill, is present your first shot a little bit low, and I allow the gun to kind of do its job. So the gun's already recoiling, so we're already seeing a little bit of muzzle movement in the upward direction. So what I really like to see when I do this drill would be like 1, maybe 2, some of these relatively tight, but once that second shot breaks and the gun's already in motion, I'm just not fighting against it. So I'm not putting a whole bunch of influence on it, I'm just allowing it to rise. So what you run into a lot with like multiple shot strings, even if they're short strings on the Alpha box, is people are trying to mitigate recoil so much, they wait for the recoil cycle, everything to kind of happen, then they transition to the head. Is that a bad way to do it? Not really, but it takes time. So really what I like to do is try and see it walk up, bop, bop, bop. I cannot simulate recoil in dry fire, but what I can do is relax enough that I know what it would take or what it would not take to allow the gun to work, if that makes sense. So with a 170, it's really gonna be like a pop, 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 like a 1, a 0.25, and like a 5, a 0.5 split. I've gotten pretty good at timing and allowing that gun to roll up to the head box, and I'll see 20 splits going to the head box. That buys me a little bit of time on the draw, a little bit of time for correction, but there's no right answer here. My biggest suggestion is don't fight the gun. Let the gun do what it wants to do when you're shooting for this drill, especially at turbo times. So let's see what 170 looks like. All right. One, two, three. Okay, that was probably more around a 150-ish. You see just not a whole bunch of tension on the third shot. 1, 2, 3. You just let it kind of go up. So maybe a little bit of input from my support side, but really don't want to bear down on it, because really when you're doing a 2-shot string to the body, as long as your grip is relatively good, the return to zero is going to be very reasonable within a couple inches. And then you just let the gun ride. Some people say float, let it go where it wants to go. And then you're just kind of, waiting for it to kind of land where you want it to land versus forcing it in where you want it to land. Let's get a couple more of those in real quick. One, two, three. That was kind of a wonky grip, but 170 seems to be working pretty good for us. So let's stretch, much like we did with the bill drill. So let's go down into like the 1.4 ballpark. So we'll take 0.3 off. Now we're gonna have to actually go to work. Definitely can't lollygag around with a 1.4. One, two, three. Okay, so we're kind of right there. Let's try that again. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Oh, my wire's attacking me. All right. One more. One, two, three. And then I tried to be like really shallow with my clear on that one, just to see if it would help at all. It was kind of strange. So I don't think I'm going to do that again. So let's go down to 1.2. So we'll take 2/10 off the 1.4. And again, we're going to have to actually start cooking now. This is definitely a push. So I might not make it. Well, we're going to give it a shot. 1, 2, 3. Okay, close. 1, 2, 3. Close. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that was more like it. That was more like it. So maybe we'll push just a little bit more. Let's go down to 1. So this, I certainly know I probably wouldn't have a whole bunch of success in live fire trying to do this at 1. Might not have a whole bunch of success in dry fire, but might as well push it to see how far we can go. We know we can reasonably get around that 120 ballpark. So let's see what we get with a 1. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that, the headshot would have ended up right over here on the outside of that 3x5 card, which would be kind of unacceptable for what we're trying to do. So let's try that again. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Close. Let's do one more. 1, 2, 3. That one looked pretty good. Like I had a strong visual kind of attachment to my dot. It didn't really quake too much at the end of my presentation. So we know 1, kind of doable. So let's go back now, just like we did with our bill drill, is we're gonna go back to 170. Now that we've pushed it, and we'll just see how controllable, excuse me guys, sorry, how controllable a 170 looks now that we've pushed so far past that benchmark. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, you guys notice the difference there, how it's like nothing is not really even pushing the draw. 1, 2, 3. We're gonna do 2 more of that. 1, 2, 3. Do 1 more. I'm gonna let the gun just ease up. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So that's really how I practice this drill. Again, all of these drills, I don't spend a tremendous amount of time dry firing, just a few minutes. Find your baseline for the day, push past that baseline, push past your comfort level, sometimes by a significant margin, and then back off again. And you'll slowly just start seeing like your skill quotient increase until some of these numbers that seem so hard to achieve just become your normal. So yep, key takeaways for this one, don't fight the gun. You just need a clean draw and let the gun do what it wants to do, or do what a gun needs to do is probably a better way to put it. And then just ride the wave, baby, have fun. So anyway, thanks guys, keep up the good work. I'll see you next time.